This is Ugradowski of WeAreChange.org here in New York City, and I'm joined by investigative journalist Wayne Madsen. We're here at a bar where Wayne has told me he has gotten more sources and more truth out of people than any other reporter that I know. Now, Wayne talks about a lot of interesting things, mainly right now with the situation with ISIS. It's almost 13 years after 9/11. It seems like history is almost repeating itself. Saudi Arabia has been caught financing ISIS. The U.S. is training them, and now the history is just repeating itself over and over again. Can you tell us the direct links between ISIS, Saudi Arabia, and what people should know about the current situation that's unfolding right now?
Certainly. Well, what we do know is that ISIS was basically created largely because of the Saudi involvement, particularly Prince Bandar, who on 9/11 was Saudi ambassador to the United States. He was invited to the White House right after 9/11. There are links now, we know, that are in the 28 missing pages or redacted pages from the Senate Joint Intelligence Report on 9/11 failures that they have to do with ties between the Saudi embassy, Prince Bandar, his wife Princess Haifa, and at least one, if not more, of the hijackers. Now we have Prince Bandar, who after he was sacked as the head of Saudi intelligence, is back as the head of the Saudi National Security Council, advising the king, and he has now been enlisted as part of Obama's coalition of the willing to train members of the quote-unquote moderate Syrian opposition against Assad to go in and not only go after ISIS, but go after Assad. When Prince Bandar did this before, he basically took volunteers going to help the so-called Free Syrian Army, and they became the al-Nusra Front, which is the very same thing as ISIS. People say they're two different. No, ISIS absorbed the al-Nusra Front. We are being sold another bill of goods here. Once again, we also know that Saudi Arabia and Israel have coordinated their operations, especially in the Golan Heights. That Israel will assist ISIS al-Nusra in attacking Syrian government positions and also attacking the UN peacekeeping post, which they took over and got all the weapons from the UN peacekeepers. Yeah. So again, we're being led down this path. Saudi Arabia, Israel, they are not enemies. They've always been quite close. And John Brennan, the current CIA director, former CIA station chief in Riyadh, is extremely close to the Saudi royal family. Some people at the CIA call him Sheikh Brennan. They say he's been to on the Hajj to Mecca, which is only for observant Muslims, or very special guests of the Saudi monarchy. And because of that, John Brennan can be legitimately called El Hajj John Brennan. Why is this individual the CIA director?
Yep. They're telling us one story, but obviously there's a whole other side of things that we're not being told. Not only are we bombing Iraq, we're bombing Syria right now. We have that justification right now. Sesaudi Arabia, which financed the hijackers of 9/11 as well, are also financing ISIS. U.S. is also training them at the same time, and it's just repeating itself. We're sold one bill of goods on the mainstream media, but what you're hearing right now is a totally different view. Now, I'm glad you brought in that intelligence kind of aspect of it, because during your speech here today, you talked about Obama's kind of role in the intelligence business as well. I was wondering if you could break that down for us.
Well, I wrote a book called The Manufacturing of a President, kind of paraphrasing the old series by Teddy White, The Making of a President. It's quite clear of all the previous presidents of the United States, even the ones who were vice president, that due to a death of a president by assassination or illness, we didn't know much about, but we knew more about even those presidents than we know about President Obama. It's quite clear that he grew up in a CIA family, grandparents, mother, Indonesia. 2 years after the bloody coup, CIA coup against President Sukarno, that installed Suharto into power, and Suharto was assisted in that overthrow by Obama's stepfather, Lolo Soetoro. When Lolo Soetoro took out Indonesian citizenship for Barack Obama, he was given the name Sobarka, and his mother, Obama's mother, crossed it out on a passport application. She wrote it, but you can still see it, because in Indonesia, everybody has a unique Indonesian name. Obama, we don't know anything about his transcripts from college are sealed. President of Harvard Law Review, where's his article? People who were at Columbia don't remember him. Where was he? He had Zbigniew Brzezinski, Carter's national security advisor, as his academic advisor at Columbia, we're told. Where was he really? Was he, in fact, liaising as a young man with the Mujahideen in Pakistan and in Afghanistan? And also, the biggest thing is after he graduates from Columbia, he joins, as he said in his own book, I went to work for a company in Manhattan. It turns out it was Business International Corporation, which isn't any company. It isn't a company. It was the company. It was a CIA front. As basically revealed by the New York Times in an article in 1977.
And there's also a lot of information returning to the Middle East when it comes to Benghazi and the CIA and covert funding of Al-Qaeda rebels that people are keeping clear and keep making sure that we don't know anything about. Can you tell us more about how possibly Benghazi ties into everything with the intelligence agencies as well?
The real issue with Benghazi was that we overthrew Gaddafi. I was actually in Tripoli during the NATO bombing campaign, and people told me, who were not really Gaddafi supporters, but they said, you realize that these rebels are gaining access to some of our, including chemical weapons, which were under UN control at the time. They're getting other weapons. And it's quite clear that these weapons, including probably some of the chemical weapons, wound up in Syria being used against Syrian civilians and then being blamed on President Assad. Yep. And I think Chris Stevens, the ambassador, and his crew were basically part of this weapons transfer operation. Something went terribly wrong. Perhaps the right amount of money wasn't paid to the rebels. But that is the real damage of Benghazi. I do not believe that Trey Gowdy or any of these others are going to look into this part of the operation, because I think they're all basically taking their orders from Langley. You're not going to get any Republican. It's been a long time since any Republican questioned the CIA. The last one I can remember that really put his foot down was the one-time chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, a guy named Barry Goldwater. He's been long since dead. We've seen nothing but CIA rubber stamp experts in charge of the oversight committees ever since. Yeah. We're not going to see any kind of real investigation. And now, today, Libya, like part of Iraq and part of Syria, is under an Islamic emirate.
Yep, and totally destroyed, totally divide and conquered. And, that seems to be the, MO, divide and conquer and order out of chaos in the Middle East. And independent investigations, even with Simon Hirsch and other independent people looking into the gas attacks that you heard about in Syria that was being blamed on Assad, they even came out and said, no, it wasn't Assad, it was the rebels. And there's so much back and forth, even between the rebels who are threatening to expose information with these gas leaks if they don't get heavy artillery. And then out of nowhere, the Syrian rebels get heavy artillery, and they're able to fight Assad even more, and now they're doing everything else. But my last question to you, Wayne, I'm having a hard time understanding. The U.S. government, with Jordan, with Saudi Arabia, with Qatar, with Turkey, secretly set up ISIS. We were supposed to bomb Assad last year, but we gave all the money pretty much to the rebels, to ISIS. We created this problem. How can the U.S. at the same time bomb them when they kind of created them? Like, what is their MO? I don't understand it.
The problem is, for Obama, he needs to get rid of some people who came up with this ridiculous policy. Part of it was the R2P policy, responsibility to protect. That was Susan Rice, the National Security Advisor now, and her replacement as the UN ambassador, U.S. Ambassador UN, Samantha Power. We know about Samantha Power's husband, Cass Sunstein, with cognitive dissonance. Oh, yeah. What we have here are people who are not qualified to be in these positions. Either they came up with the idea. I don't think they're intelligent enough to do that, though. I think they were sold this R2P, and I think it was R2P that has now basically taken large swaths of Iraq and Syria and a huge part of Libya and turned them into Islamic Emirates, as well as a large part of northern Nigeria, Boko Haram, declaring an emirate there in Cameroon, an attempt to do the same in Mali. This is totally out of control. Our natural allies against this, we either killed or we're trying to overthrow. That is Gaddafi, who we killed. Hillary Clinton said, we came, we saw, he died. This woman, again, she has no business being president of the United States. She had no business being Secretary of State. So what we've got to have is cleaning of the house with these individuals and get professionals in there instead of these total rank amateurs.
Yep. Wayne, thank you so much. The link to your website will be in the description below. It seems like black is white, white is black, everything's totally upside down, but with people like yourself doing the hard work, doing the investigations, we're able to see the true side of the story that we're not being told anywhere, and you're getting it here. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out Wayne Madsen with the link in the description below. Thank you again so much for watching. If you found this information helpful, click like and share it with your friends, please.